Okay, let's go real fast. We have two body paragraphs and we are trying to turn them into an essay. The first thing we have to do is make sure that we have transitions that tell the relationship between these two paragraphs. We're starting with Marguerite's terrible. We then go to Marguerite's trying to be a benevolent person. What's the relationship? Well, this is the beginning of the story, this is the end. We need to have transitions that tie that relationship, that tie those paragraphs together by making that relationship clear. In the beginning of the novel, Marguerite is a terrible person. So that tells us where we're starting. I also want to make sure I have transitions in my closures. All in all, Marguerite is an awful and vile person until she learns to be a better person later in the book. Until she redeems herself. That sounds better. Okay, so that addition means that it's now clearer what the relationship is going to be. I'm going to add transitions to my second body paragraph as well. By the end of The Scarlet Pimpernel, Marguerite is trying to be a more benevolent person. So again, this helps tie those two paragraphs together by telling you what the relationship is. And again, this paragraph is missing commentary, but here's our closure, and I want to make sure that I add that transition that reveals the relationship. All of these pieces of edit lead to the conclusion that Blakeney might start as a horrible human being. But by the end of the novel, she has become a more benevolent person. So again, I am saying, what is the relationship? The relationship between the two paragraphs is one is at the beginning, one is at the end. So now that I have added my 4 transitional phrases into topic, sentence, and closure, I am ready for my introduction. Introduction, you got hook, bridge, thesis. There are lots of different kinds of hooks. We are going to work on a background hook. And this is where you get to be a little bit more creative and bring yourself to the table. A bridge is a specific kind of transition. And then you have a thesis, and your thesis should be your roadmap. It has to tell you what topics you're going to cover and in what order. This essay goes over Marguerite. It starts with her being a terrible person. It ends with her being a benevolent one. So those two ideas need to stay in order. Because it's a roadmap, if we go terrible first and then benevolent, the thesis must go terrible first and then benevolent. So if the thesis is out of order, the essay is in fact going to score significantly lower. So what would a thesis look like? A thesis, if you're writing about literature, should always include the title and the author. And as I said, you have to have the topics in order. So my thesis would look something like this. In Baroness Orczy's The Scarlet Pimpernel, titles of novels are italicized, Marguerite begins as a terrible person, but she develops into a benevolent one. So that's my thesis. Next up, what do I do for a hook? Well, I can give the background of the book itself. How was it published? When was it published? I can give the background of the author, who's Baroness Orczy, what led her up to writing this novel. I can give a background on the setting of the novel, which would be the French Revolution. I have to make a choice about what I think is important and how I want to introduce myself to the reader. So I may choose to do French Revolution. So here is my hook. Fair warning, this hook is completely wrong because I don't want you copying from me. So if you were to write this hook in your paper, how you would be introducing yourself to me is as an untrustworthy liar because these facts are not right, but it gives us something to work with. because now I need the bridge. Kids get confused by this and they shouldn't. What you need to do is you need to take the main ideas from the bottom. So what are my main ideas here? I have Baroness Orsi. I have Scarlet Pimpernel. I have Marguerite. I've got Terrible. I've got Benevolent. I've got She Develops. Those are my main ideas in my thesis. I then take the main ideas from my introduction. It's the French Revolution. It's 1 million French citizens. It is guillotine. It is torture. It is innocent. And of course, this guy clearly doesn't even exist since those are names from our novel. But if this were a good hook, then once I have my main idea words from the top and the bottom highlighted, then all I have to do is pull some words from the top and some words from the bottom and put them together. And bang, I have a transition. Words from the thesis in the same sentence with words from the hook. That's as simple as it is. And you can choose any main idea words from top and bottom. So again, words from the hook, words from the thesis. How about one more? Bam, words from the thesis, yellow, words from the hook, green. So a bridge is a type of transition where you take ideas from above and ideas from below and weave them together. And that is your introduction. So once you have your introduction and you have your transitions on your body paragraphs, this is beginning to look a lot like an essay. The only thing we have left to do now is the conclusion. So in the conclusion, I have, my computer is losing its mind. Give me a sec here. In the conclusion, I should restate the thesis. I should refer to the hook. I don't want to repeat the details from the hook. I want to make a reference to them. And then I have to talk about the real world. So a lot of times I would actually copy the thesis, bring it down here, and then change the wording up. So I don't need to repeat that it's Baroness Orsi or in the Scarlet Pimpernel, the Lady Marguerite. Maybe I don't even want to say that. The Lady Marguerite begins as an awful person, but she develops into a kind soul. So that actually would be enough to restate your thesis. You can certainly put in a little bit more effort and have something that has a little bit more personality to it and reflects the student more. So this would be another way that you could restate your thesis. But both of them would be a successful restatements, with this one simply being a little bit better. Next, you would want to refer to the hook. And when I say refer to the hook, don't repeat the hook, bring it up. So we have something like, let me do this. By the end, she was the sort of person who would have wanted to save millions from the guillotine. And of course, the millions and guillotine are straight out of my hook. And so that's what I mean by reference to the hook. So you could certainly do something that is a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit more detailed. But if you notice, even though this one sounds different, we still have the same references to the hook. This time we have the 1 million and we have innocent. So it doesn't matter which words from the intro that you connect back up to. Last thing, you need to connect to the real world. Why is this topic important? And it's your choice. Why is it important to read about characters like Marguerite? Why is it important to learn about the French Revolution? Why is it important to read the novel? It's your choice what it is that you think is important and that you are going to draw back out into the real world. So I might have something like, by learning of her character growth, the reader can learn the importance of overcoming personal failures. So why is it important? It's important to learn how to grow as a person. Marguerite teaches us that. So that's a real world application. Maybe instead I'm going to talk about, well, why is historical fiction important? Historical fiction gives readers a chance to wish for a better world that actually exists. So both of these are conclusions that would be very successful. This is clearly the second one is more detailed and sophisticated, but both of them are very good conclusions. So that is how you turn two paragraphs into one essay. All you have to add is your introduction, add some transitions, and then conclusion is the bow at the end. Reminder, introduction is important because this is the reader's first introduction to who you are. Impress the reader so that they will be impressed throughout. Hook may be as many sentences as you want because the hook is where you are deciding how you want to present yourself. The bridge must be one sentence, the thesis must be one sentence. Conclusion, generally you have three parts, so it's not at all unusual to only have three sentences. And that is your whole essay. So go turn your two paragraphs into a beautiful essay. And please do way better research than this because this is just wrong. There is no way logistically that they could have walked a million people up those guillotine steps, decapitated them, and gotten rid of the bodies. Yeah, just couldn't happen. And if you have incorrect information in the intro, your reader will never believe you. So keep in mind this hook, that's your first impression. Good luck.